As we enter what feels like week 412 of Out Touring Cars, we try and bridge that gap with a June update and mid-season review.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. And as Russ said, if you're having withdrawal symptoms from the touring cars, we're going to bring you up to date with some of the news from June, as well as the action from Alton Park, and also our mid-season analysis of how everything's going, really. How are you?
I'm all right, yes. I'm just looking at the camera. I look particularly small compared to you today.
Step forward slightly.
I think it's the shade. No, I think it's the shade of my blue to your grey. It's I look tiny in comparison. But anyway, we'll carry on. I'm not in a distance. We are in the same room. I am well. I am missing the touring cars. I'm also quite enjoying the fact we've had a long break to do other bits and pieces.
I'm kind of glad that it's fallen when the World Cup is.
Yes, there is that as well, which has been enjoyable in part. There's also been a chance for us to do a few other bits and pieces that don't require running around after touring cars all the time, which has been nice in some ways. And actually, in fairness, the month of June has been quite quiet for touring car updates as well.
It has. We'll get straight into those straight away anyway. So we do have a couple of announcements. It looks like we're going to get a couple of different drivers possibly stepping into a seat at Accelerate.
Yes, so we mentioned in one of our previous pods, I think it was the May update, I could be wrong, that Osamu Kawashima, apologies.
Well done.
Apologies if that is their mispronunciation, has confirmed on his Instagram page that he will be racing in rounds 9 and 10 later this season for Accelerate Motorsport. So that probably looks, well, it's one of two, isn't it? It's Collard or it's Hamilton. And obviously we know that Collard has had more public pleas and more public announcements that he won't necessarily be able to complete the full season. Yeah. Obviously we have seen in the past that Nick has also struggled for budget, but at the moment there's been no suggestion that it's him that would be struggling. However, you would think it'd be one of those two that he will be replacing for rounds 9 and 10, which isn't going to be great for Ingram. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about Osamu's racing career, but I don't think he's going to step into the car and be doing what Turkerton did for Hill a couple of years ago. And if Ingram is in the championship battle come those last two, and that is debatable, as we'll get to with the mid-season review or mid-ish season review. It's an interesting one. And I think that we spoke about in our question and answer session, which if you haven't listened to, go and listen to that because we answered your questions. But I think this is part of the problem with touring cars, that drivers can't get budget for a full season. And this is the merry-go-round is never good for the sport. It's great for individual drivers to get their standing in the touring cars. It'd be great for Japanese motorsport to have a Japanese driver for, I think, the first time in touring cars. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's the first Japanese touring car driver. But it's also not great for what's supposed to be a pedigree sport that drivers can't fulfill an entire season. It would be like, Mohamed Salah deciding that he can only play half the season because he hasn't got the budget for boots for the rest of the season. You'd say, what are you talking about? You're playing at one of the top, top clubs in one of the top divisions in world football. And that's what this is supposed to be. I know.
And it does also look like they've had a couple of other drivers testing throughout this mid-season break. One name that's on the lips of many people is Tom Ovenden. Obviously, with the Accelerate setup, has raced in minis and won and done quite well in minis. And we could possibly be seeing him step into the car at some point during the season. If, as it comes to pass, Collard has only got maybe 5 or 6 rounds confirmed, whether he then has to step away.
Could be that he's already stepped away in this break and we won't be seeing him back. Obviously, the break will have given him a good chance to try and get some extra funding for the next part of the season. But it was already a car that was running at minimal sponsorship, and to already have Ovenden out in the car. And obviously, Ovenden is a driver for the future for the Accelerate team. He's done very well in minis, but with that, and then the news of, as I mentioned, with the driver coming in for rounds 9 and 10. It doesn't look great. And I have to say as well, it doesn't look great. This is happening at Accelerate again after last year's fumble with Michael Crease, shall we say, with the Bensley and Proctor stuff that happened last year as well.
The only thing I would say is it looks like they've got this slightly more organised this year.
Agreed, but I don't think a top team should be, I don't think any team should really be doing a driver merry-go-round unless there are extenuating circumstances like we saw last year a little bit with PMRs burning down, Jelly stepped aside so they could have a car, etc. That's a bit different. I don't think it is good to have a merry-go-round at all, and I don't think it's good for one of the so-called top teams to be having this for this second year running.
Yeah, I can see your point of view there. We did also have a round in Alton Park for the touring cars in June. That was full of action, wasn't it?
Are we going to just gloss over that Quaife are sponsoring the drivetrains for the providing the drivetrains for the junior series. We're just going to gloss over that.
We'll see whether that develops into something a little more established for the start of next season and beyond.
I was expecting that to be a bigger news story than it was, but fine.
So yeah, we had June's race at Alton Park. We had 3 different winners there in Dan Camish, Ash Sutton, and Charles Rainford. And I believe the championship gap narrowed like by a point or 2.
Oh,
which
good.
makes all the difference.
Good.
So yeah, it wasn't overly exciting.
What I will say though is that across the first 12 races of the season, we have seen 7 different drivers take victory, and 11 drivers, which is over half the current grid, have already stood on the podium in just 4 events. So what I would say, and I've been saying this quite a lot to myself to try and make myself it's copium, and also I have this saved for one of the second half of the Q&A session, which we'll bring to you shortly. I think if you took Ingram and Sutton away from the championship, which is, there's pros and cons to that, obviously, but underneath, it's a really competitive grid. It's a really close championship. And we had this in F1 last season. If you took away Norris and Piastri, and then to a lesser extent Verstappen as the second half of the season developed, underneath was a really interesting season. And actually, this season, it looks like you could have a really close midfield there again as well.
Does that mean I'm going to need to sort out another one of my championships?
I would suggest that we will let the public decide on that. If they want to see another,
down in the comments below.
Yeah, if you want to see my brain explode, as Sam explains one of his Excel spreadsheets, please comment below, either on our post promoting this video or on the YouTube itself, or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcast from, that you want to see an alternative championship. If you do, I will sit through it. If you don't, then Sam will probably still do it, but we won't deliver it to you all.
Yeah, and if you haven't done already, please do subscribe down below, get the bell on, and make sure you keep up to date with all the news, entertainment, previews, reviews that we have for you throughout the rest of the season as well.
For an unscripted show, we don't flow well into it.
I know.
What a setup. What a setup.
So, shall we take a little bit of a closer look over the season so far? We're going to pick, I've certainly picked out 3 sort of like highlights.
That's fine. You make it sound like don't make it sound like you've done the research and I haven't.
We've both picked out 3 points of interest, shall we say, for the season so far. Rather than taking you through every single driver individually, we're going to take you through the highlights and possibly lowlights, and what we could look forward to for the rest of the season. Yes,
as an incredibly negative person, when Sam proposed this, my first question was, do we have to look at this from a positive point of view, or can we look at some of it from a negative point of view? So,
do you want me to start?
You've done research, so please do.
I'm going to start on a positive note then. Now, at the start of the season, WSR came into this season as an independent entry with 2 very young, sort of inexperienced drivers in Rainford and De Leon. And I think in your pre-season predictions, actually, you had them fairly high up in the championship as to where you thought they were going to finish.
I did, and actually at the minute, it's not I got the wrong way round, but my overall feeling was not too far off the mark.
Yeah, so after 4 rounds, Charles Rainford is 4th overall in the championship with a couple of wins, which actually gives him more wins than both Ingram and Camish. And I think that's something that he's got to look to build on going into the second half of the season. If he wants to be, quote, best of the rest, possibly fighting for that 3rd in the championship, to go, look, I'm here, I know what it's about, I can show my quality, show how good the car is. And it's a car that, again, we know, lacking in sponsorship. If you want to bring that sponsorship in, performances help that massively. But I think what he struggled for, sort of like in the first half of the season, is consistency and overall pace. Yes, there have been these flashes and highlights of brilliance and being able to take those race wins. And that last time out at Alton, he did it competently with ease. Didn't really look too phased or challenged, did he?
No, I completely agree with you. One question I have for you is that, do you think he can win the championship at all?
What?
Ever? I mean,
ever?
Yes.
Yes, probably.
Yes, I agree. And do you think he can do it this year?
No. I just think that Sutton and Ingram, and even the gap between those two at this point this season is, I think, 52 points. It's just too insurmountable at this stage. I think his best hope is to be battling with Camish for that 3rd place in the championship and trying to take a stronghold on that, because it will give him a really positive basis to possibly go into next season to go, right, we're going to make a car, we're going to have a team that is going to be able to fight for the championship at 9 out of the 10 rounds across the season. There's always normally 1 bogey track for a car, or even a driver. So as long as you can compete, should I say, at 9 of the 10 rounds, you should be in with a chance of the championship at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking forward to the future, they ditch that car. Not necessarily the brand, but I think they need to, not necessarily need to, but I think they will end up ditching that car and go for perhaps a more, I mean, it already is a saloon, but there's other slippery saloons in the BMW range that they might look at.
Well, there's going to be the interesting change up in regulations soon, where different engines can be run with different suppliers and stuff like that could really shake things up in the championship. And that could be the chance for them to take the bull by the horns and actually go and do exactly what they want.
Be harder for them though, what with the DTM style engine.
Yes,
No, I am joking, of course. Yes. But yes, no, I mean, I've been very impressed with Charles this season. I was very impressed with him last season. I think that they've come out fighting WSI. They've had a difficult off season, what with the BMW brand stepping back, and then, as you say, lack of sponsorship on the car. Obviously, I have got the main sponsor, which I can never pronounce properly.
Cognition.
Is that how you say it?
Cognition.
Oh, okay. I was putting like a French Cognition or something, trying to think of it. Because there's a similar style brand, I think, on the Aston Martin, but Cognizant. Yeah, I get them confused. See, there you go. But yeah, they've come out fighting. I've been particularly impressed with Charles. At the start of the season, I did. There's no saying potentially. I did have De Leon pegged to be doing better than Charles, and I've been proved wrong on that. So that's fair enough. But they've both done pretty well. The car's been pretty competitive overall. But you are right. They need to, if they're going to take the next step to be challenging for, well, they are going to challenge for the independents because they're not in the manufacturers now, but they're going to be challenging for both the independent driver outright and also the champion outright. They need a car that can compete at every round, not, as you say, 2 out of the 3 or arguably 2 out of the 4 so far this season.
Yeah, agreed. Your first highlight or low light?
Highlight or low light? I'm going to go for, let's talk about Napa. Let's get it out of the way because firstly, I haven't got my phone on my hand to do the stats for the other 2 drivers, but also, I don't know what to make of them because on the one hand, Sutton is at the top of the championship. He is running away with this by a long way, but this is what Sutton does. Yeah. On the other hand, Selby has looked quite scraggy at times.
Yes.
But then is that just because he's a new driver in the new sport, in a brand new car? But
do you think he might be feeling a little bit of pressure of having Senna Proctor just sitting there and waiting, possibly in the wings, to take over if a driver's not performing well?
No, because I think that if that was ever a possibility, Napa would have put him in the car ahead of Selby anyway. Yeah. If Selby's mind and the ego of a race driver is much more strong than the ego of Europe, well, certainly me, maybe not you, but they'll be saying, look, I've been picked here by Napa. I've been chosen to race in this series on merit. Therefore, I deserve my space in the car, etc. Yeah. But I also think that if Napa really wanted to put Proctor in the car, they'd have found a way to put Proctor in the car. I know that sponsorship is a thing, but if Napa really wanted to, they would have found a way. Is how I look at it. I think Proctor is simply there in case, for whatever reason. I think Proctor's more likely to come in if the championship was close and they need to say, right, we're kicking Selby out or Osborne out for rounds 9 and 10. We're putting Proctor in because we know he can run it at the front and cause trouble to Tom, like he did to Ash last season for Accelerate. But I just think so. Selby's he's done okay. He's had some solid, but he's had a lot of incidences. Osborne flatters to deceive. 1 week he's looking brilliant. Next week it's like, where's Osborne?
I think we're just waiting for Silverstone to come around each season. Yeah. Osborne to go, oh yeah, I'm still here. But yeah, his performances haven't been.
They've been like that. Yeah.
What, 6-7?
Oh dear. that's cancelled. And then Camish, who I've been quite underwhelmed with as well. I know he took his win at Alton Park, but
still 3rd in the championship.
Yeah, but have you found him particularly overwhelming this season?
No, but I've kind of got to the stage with Camish to go, oh yeah, he's going to finish 3rd.
Yeah, I get that.
And I know I shouldn't be because obviously back when he was right on that cusp of winning that title, we thought, okay, he's going to be the next big man in the sport. He's going to go off. He's going to win a couple of titles within the next 5 years or something like that. And it feels like ever since he's been at Napa, yes, he's been a good quality driver. He's bought performances, bought results, but never had just that little bit more edge than Sutton.
Yeah, no, I
And
suppose
we've spoken about it
I
before.
was going to say, I suppose the point I'm thinking of most of all is that every season we say, is this going to be the year that Camish does it? Is this going to be the year that Camish challenges? And he hasn't again. He's so far off again. I mean, yeah, he's second third. You're absolutely right. There's no denying that. He's 160 points. Sutton's on 220. That is a gap of 60 points already. That is 3 race wins already.
I know.
And we're only 4 races. And I know what Sutton is doing is ridiculous. I understand that. This is my point about Napa. I can't work out if they're any good or if they, what I'm saying is, if Sutton wasn't there, I know ifs and buts, and if your granny had, she'd be your uncle. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But if Sutton wasn't there, would Camish be leading this championship? I don't think he would.
But then look at him compared to where Ingram is this season. 12 points difference between the two.
Yes.
That's not that far off. And
no, but then you chuck in.
If you gave Camish that at the start of the season, take Sutton out of the equation for now. If you gave Camish that at the start of the season, do you think he'd be going, oh, okay, I'm in this?
Yeah, but then again, it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. But you chuck in that Camish had Ingram had a disqualification, and then 2 retirements, and he's still 12 points clear of Camish, who's only had 1 non-finish.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, 1 non-points finish. I don't know. So the point I'm making about Napa is I don't know if they're any good or not. I don't know if this car's any good or not. I don't know it because Sutton is such a ridiculous, and I'm going to use it in a positive way, freakish driver that he is just ridiculous. What he can do with a car is unbelievable.
He can just get in it and drive it exactly how he wants. As long as he's got the base set up there where he's got it nice and sharp on that front end, able to get the back end a bit loose and be able to get that turn in all the corners. I'm pretty sure that's where he makes all of his speeds, in the corners. The amount of sort of like mid-corner speed that he's able to carry is just where all his lap time comes from.
And then on the other drivers, Selby is only ahead of Hamilton and Buxton.
Yep.
And Buxton, who's basically been driving a cart horse for the season. And Hamilton, who, to be fair, is really strong, but he's been stronger in the Jack Sears rather than overall point scoring.
Yep.
And then Osborne is only ahead of Dorlin, who's had some real trouble with the car. We've seen that.
Engine penalties.
And then he's only ahead of Selby, who'd expect him to be, and then Hamilton Buxton again. So he's only ahead of 4 drivers. He's behind people like Chris Smiley, who's not had a particularly strong. We both said restart have been a bit anonymous this year.
Yep.
He's behind people like Dexter Patterson, who brand new car, brand new team, driving the absolute end off it.
Well done.
Yeah. Look, it's a ridiculously close, tight championship. We've seen that already. You take Ingram and Sutton away from it, the actual racing, the rest of the field is so close. It's so tight. But you'd expect both those drivers to be ahead of some of the drivers they're behind.
But is that showing what quality there now is in the championship? Yes, we've got a reduced number of only 21 drivers, but is that showing the close competitiveness of the championship and the quality of drivers are there? You've already mentioned 11 of those drivers have taken the podium already. Are we going to see the wheat sorted from the chaff and get those drivers who maybe haven't got the right experience in Selby struggle very much early on in the championship, or possibly the drivers that haven't got that pure speed, dare I say, Sam Osborne, struggle still compared to the other drivers that are there as well?
To finish my point off, I'm going to ask you a question. Is this Ford the best car on the grid? Because I don't think it is. And I know it's bonkers to say when you see how far Sutton's ahead, but Sutton's won championship in an Infiniti, which wasn't as good as some of the other cars on the grid, in my opinion. He's won a championship in a Subaru, which wasn't as good as some of the other cars on the grid, in my opinion. I don't think this is the best. Last year, Accelerate, and it's not to decry or take away from Ingram's achievement, he won with the best car on the grid. There was no doubt that car last year was the best car on the grid.
Yep.
I'm not sure that this is the best car on the grid this year.
It's really difficult to tell because obviously Napa have gone in a different direction with the same base chassis, and just added that saloon-style rear end to the car, which they were trying to gain that extra top speed out of, which it looks like they've done.
And they're so good in the corner still.
Arguably, you would say it's a better car than last season, definitely. But I still don't know whether, between that and the Hyundai, whether it's the best car on the grid.
I still think the Hyundai is the better car, personally. I think it's lost a little bit of its top-line speed, or Ford have found some of the top-line speed. But you look at what Collard's pulling out of that car, what Chilton's pulled out of that car as well at times this season. It's been a bit hit and miss. And actually, Nick's really at home in that car as well, and doing really, and having by far his best touring car season we've ever seen. I think that car's better. I think it's interesting. And what do you guys think? Are Napa any good? Is it a case of Sutton sort of papering over some of the cracks, or are we being a little bit, or particularly me, being a little bit harsh on the car and the team itself? What do you think?
Well, my second point of interest is actually to do with Accelerate, and it's to do with the difference in the drivers between Tom Chilton and Ricky Collard, and how Accelerate are possibly going to be able to use those drivers throughout the rest of the season if they want to try and overcome this gap that Ingram has now got to Sutton at the top of the championship. For me, Chilton's been nowhere near good enough this season. Yes, he has had bright points, but look at his points in the championship, and he's a lot lower than I would have expected him to be at this stage. Whereas you look at a driver like Ricky Collard, going into the championship, fresh off of racing GT, so cars that are nothing like these touring cars. He's been out of the touring cars for 3 seasons.
If not more, yeah.
And to jump straight into that car, no testing, came in on media day, only managed to get half of the...
Why'd you never turn it on to silent?
Why is she ringing me? Only managing to get sort of like half a day of media testing done, and then he jumps in that car and he's, dare I say, nearly as quick as Ingram in those first opening rounds, but he's a driver that might not be there for the rest of the season because of sponsorship. And now we've talked the bones off of that. I'm not going to go down that route, but he's a driver that should really be there till the end of the season to be able to help Ingram to go and try and win another championship. I don't think Tom Chilton's that driver at the moment.
So Tom Chilton sits 12th in the titles overall. He's had a single podium this season. Ahead of him, some drivers that you may question. Aaron Taylor-Smith, who's had a win obviously this season, has looked pretty good overall. Mm-hmm. Aidan Moffat, who I think has surprised everybody. Yes. And then, to be fair, the rest of the people above him, with the possible exception of Mikey Doble.
To me, I'm quite surprised there are 2 Toyotas ahead of Chilton.
I'm also...
Just because of the performance that Toyota have shown this season. Yes, they've had glimpses, especially in the Laser Tools car, but it just feels like he's struggling.
Before I get the PMR army against me for saying Mikey Doble, the only reason I would say that I'm perhaps surprised that Doble was also ahead of him is that I'm quite surprised that there are 2 brand new cars ahead of what is an established driver, an established car, before people start shouting at me. Yes, they've done very well. We know this.
So for Accelerate to prove that, as we just spoke about, whether they have got the best car, those drivers need to be producing, or certainly Chilton needs to be producing better performances where he's taking points off of Sutton at stages throughout the season if Ingram is going to win another title.
If I was to be playing Chilton's defence lawyer,
okay, cool.
He has had a couple of retirements.
Yes.
3.
Yes.
He has had only 1 non-points finish.
Okay.
And you could argue that if you side of the Tom Chilton point of view, which I don't, and nor do the stewards, but Charles Rainford is a rotter who cost him everything at Snetterton. You could point to those being reasons to why he's not necessarily had as strong a start to the season. I think what will have blindsided him is how quick and good Collard has been straight out the box. Mm-hmm. I do think that has shocked everybody. I don't think he'd admit it. I think it's probably shocked Collard himself that how good and how quick he's been in that car.
I think it's almost more of a mental aspect where Ricky is that he's taking this opportunity, trying to get the most out of it and enjoying it the most he can. We've already said how charismatic he is in the interviews and how much he's just enjoying being there and being able to race. And he's fully understanding that he's probably not going to be there for the whole season. So he's making the most of it very early on, and making the most of it may even get him the sponsorship to finish the season. But yeah, he's surprised me in a very good way, and Chilton for me has underperformed.
Okay, I'm going to also talk about a championship stalwart, but in a more positive way, and it's going to be Gordon Shedden for me, who I think has been a phenomenon this season, an absolute revelation. There was a lot of eyebrows raised when he came back to the sport last year. Why is he coming back? He's proved everything he needs to prove in touring cars. This is another case of old driver coming back. It's going to be like Giovinazzi when he came back. It's completely pointless. And last year was a tricky one. I think that the car and the team struggled a little bit last year with setup, etc. But he's coming this year. And he's taken a 3rd. He's taken a 1st. He's looked really competitive throughout. He sits 9th in the championship with 97 points already. He's had 2 retirements. Other than that, he's been relatively towards the sharper end scoring points. He's looked really racy.
Yep.
He's had great outright speed, and he's been a bit of a surprise package. Really, I wasn't that I wasn't expecting him to compete for the championship.
Mm.
Those days are gone. But he's been a really solid addition to the grid again. And he's been by far, in my opinion, I mean, Cook is actually ahead of him in the championship, but I actually think he's been the more impressive of the 4 Toyota drivers so far this season, certainly on a consistent level.
Yep.
I've
got a question for you on
Go
that.
on.
How much of an influence do you think the Laser Tools branding and the team coming in to that Toyota setup has had on the very slight uplift on performance that both him and Aaron Taylor-Smith have had this season?
I think it suggests to me that they are 2 very separate teams insofar as how they're running things. I do think that comes to mind. I think they are both running.
They're an independent entry this season rather than a manufacturer one, which they were last.
They are both running the same engine. I've just checked that, the Toyota M Sport engine, and it does appear to me that the Laser Tools side of things have got it more right than wrong.
Yep.
But I think that Laser Tools are a championship winning team. Jake Hill won the championship with Laser Tools on board.
Yep.
They've had some really good successes with Aidan Moffat before that. They're a long-established team. They have a long-established drivers, and Blundell is still a part of it as far as I'm aware, who is very good at driver coaching. Not particularly that these 2 drivers necessarily need coaching.
I was going to say, it's a very different take for him to take on 2 drivers that are so experienced.
Yeah, but I think that's testament to him even more in a way, because Shedden is used to the old style of racing.
Mm.
He's not really he hadn't raced this era for when he came back as a surprise. He'd been away from the grid for such a long time.
Yep.
And now he's in a brand new era with a brand new set of regs, etc. And Aaron Taylor-Smith, I think, he was good last year. He's just getting better and better and better. He is in such a good purple patch at the minute, and I think that he's probably enjoying the new regs, but also I think that he's probably just tweaking his driving a little bit. And I think having somebody like Blundell on board who can point to the data, can point to this little change you can make. Touring cars is a sport of marginal gains. You tweak something by half a degree, you can suddenly unlock 5-10 horsepower, which is game changing in touring car speak. But yeah, Shedden really has impressed me. As I say, what people were saying, well, what's he coming back for? Well, not everybody can win the championship, and not everybody can compete for the championship.
Only one person can.
Exactly. But actually, to be solidly within the top 10, to be constantly scoring points and actually looking really at home in the car. And also, if you want this team to carry on far into the future, it's about legacy building. And if you can keep the team in a strong place where sponsors are still interested, where data's being learnt on the car, where things are being understood and how to set cars up for the future, etc. One day Gordon will step away and somebody else will take the seat. And it's imperative that they can take a good seat where they can keep pushing that car forward.
Where do you think he can end up this season in terms of championship finishing?
I think top 10 is a great achievement for him. I think that,
you don't think he'll try and push that forward to maybe edging into that top 6?
Well, I look at who's above him, and I think it'd be a hell of an effort to do so. I mean, Card will drop if he leaves the championship. He will drop through the championship, so you could just essentially say yes, he can go up an extra place. Cook is Cook. Cook is a really good driver. There's no doubt about that. And if they can get that car working, big ifs, but if they can, then Cook will look to go up the grid. Mikey Dowell's had an incredible start, and PMR have been a revelation. There's no doubt about that. I think you're going to talk about that in your final one. Darrell De Leon is really quick. I wouldn't necessarily expect Shedden to be beating De Leon now at this stage in their career. And then you get into your Rainfords, Camish, Ingram and Sutton, who are, on my opinion, now a level above Shedden. A prime Shedden, absolutely in there. But you've got to remember, Shedden is... It's going to sound like a diss. It's not.
Statesman.
He's on the decline in touring car terms. There's no doubt about it. He is not going to be at the same sort of peak as Ingram, Sutton, etc., because he's had those days.
He can still bring out good performances,
yes, of course,
but it's the consistency across the whole season.
He would be by far and away the oldest champion, I think, if he did win this, which he was not going to. I'm just putting that out there now. He's not. But it's like it in all sport, right? That eventually the old make way for the young. And I'm not saying he's at the point where he has to walk away from touring cars. His results prove otherwise. But I've been impressed with him because, as I say, there was a lot of sort of grumblings of what's the point. These days are beyond him. His style of racing doesn't fit in the new era.
There were big question marks after last season's performances over whether he would carry on. And I think actually Mark Blundell's had quite a lot of influence over whether he would carry on, being able to sign with MB Motorsport and Laser Tools. I think that's given him the confidence to go, okay, we can continue to grow this rather than plateau or even drop off further.
Absolutely.
So my third highlight of the season, I think it has to be the Audis that PMR have brought to the grid. To bring a new car to the championship is difficult at the best of times, but considering what the team have been through in the last 18 months, it's an incredible achievement as to what they've been able to do, how they've been able to even expand from last season, only running 2 cars to now going to 3. Yes, they've had the helping hand, shall I say, of Aidan Moffat being able to bring a wedge of money and a wedge of sponsors with him as well.
Yeah, but they've also got that works two ways. Sorry to interrupt you,
Cool.
because it's got to be a yes, you're right, he brings money, but it's also got to be an appealing enough proposition to the driver to bring that money.
Definitely.
So that's testament to PMR.
I think he's still checking off the amount of cars that he's managed to drive within touring cars. So it was another one on his list. And to be fair, all 3 drivers have performed well this season.
They have.
And possibly outperforming their expectations, certainly from the start of the season. Now I'm expecting a lot more of the team, and when they don't have a good weekend, it's quite a disappointment to myself anyway.
Yeah, well, if I compare him to the other new team on the grid, which is Plato Racing, and I'll just get I'll accept this is going to go badly in the comments.
Get pelters.
All 3 of them are ahead of Dan Rowbottom, and 2 are ahead of Adam Morgan. Patterson is behind Adam Morgan by 3 points. So that tells you, if you're looking at 2 teams that are coming in with brand new cars, brand new drivers for the most part. I mean, I know Doble was there last year, but Patterson wasn't, nor was Moffat. They are massively outperforming Plato Racing, which a lot of people at the start of the season would have said that Plato Racing were winning it all. So
the car seems to have a lot of outright pace.
Agreed.
It doesn't seem to be too difficult for the drivers to be able to set the car up in a specific way to get all of the pace out of the car that they need. And their consistency of performance, they're normally well within the top 10 in scoring points in most races, if not all. And reliability wise, I'm hoping you're going to back me up on this, they haven't had too many issues.
So Patterson's had 1 retirement. Where is Moffat? Moffat's had no retirements but 3 non-points finishes. Mikey Doble's had no retirements and 1 non-point finish, and of course a win. Yeah.
I mean, that win in the opening weekend, it was just bonkers. Yes, okay, penalties played into that, but to ask for that kind of start to the season, even if penalties wasn't there, it was still a podium finish. And in the opening race of the season with a brand new car, the team couldn't have asked for any more. What I'm hoping is that Adam Weaver is now in a really good place with this team, and obviously PMR have been asked to do the junior series and be able to build a car that's cheap yet competitive and produce good racing. I'm really hoping that the focus is balanced between the 2.
It's not a focus, it's a...
That there is a balance between the 2 projects that they've got going on as a team, and that they're actually going to bring something to the table that is going to be able to entice young drivers, to be able to give them a good budget option to get into the sport and to get onto a TOCA package where they can see development come through and go from that into minis and then into touring cars. PMR have got to find this balance to continue this upward rise, which I think is difficult with a couple of projects on the way, but it certainly looks so far that this season is going to give them a good kickstart into that.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Rainford, PMR have impressed me the most, without a shadow of a doubt. As you say, bringing a new car to the grid is always difficult. I'm not just trying to dig the knife into Plato Racing here, but you can only compare that they are 2 new cars to the grid. You compare them both. Okay, yes, I know Plato's got the extra difficulty of being a brand new team, etc.
But he's also got manufacturer back.
Manufacturing, and one's been very shouty in the off-season about how great they're going to be. One's been a bit more quiet and just got on with the work. And actually,
PMR have always been. They've always been reserved about what they do, and they well outperform expectation
100%
every single season.
And that's what they're doing now.
What I would love to see is if Audi come in and go, okay, we'll back you now.
I'd love that to happen.
Because that would be brilliant, one for the championship, but also for the team as well. Because it would increase their ability to be able to employ the best kind of people, be able to go on and challenge for the championship tenfold, I think.
I completely agree. And I also think that with Mikey Doble, and this is perhaps, I don't know if it's a left field shout or not, I think if he can stay in the championship and get the right car, that might well be at PMR. I think he's a championship. I'm going to say I think he's a championship winner. I think he can win. I think he's quick enough and good enough in his racecraft that he can win a championship.
Yeah, he's shown already that his racecraft, he can stick it to the best. We saw that win at Snetterton last season where he had to hold off a charging Ash Sutton, and he was able to do that with fairly consummate ease. Yes, okay, there are different variables that have to come into play.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying he's going to win it this year.
Across the whole season, he could certainly have the consistency to challenge, if not go on and do it himself.
And one thing he has done this year as well, which I think is key, is that he's eradicated a lot of the errors, which are always going to be a case of a brand new driver in a difficult sport. But I think also as well that you've given, and I'm going to put you on the spot a bit now, but you've given Moffat quite a lot of heat over the years. He's been impressive this season as well.
And dare I say, at the start of the season, I called him as a driver to look out for.
You did, yeah, you did. He's in the top 10.
And you thought I was, I'd fallen off the wagon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's in a place where he's comfortable. In a team like PMR, it feels as if all the drivers are loved, appreciated, and there isn't almost a hierarchy. Everyone's on the same sort of level, and I think he appreciates that.
I would say that in this next half-ish of the season, he has to get a podium. He has to get a podium in this car.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think actually Dex should really, who's also the other driver at PMR, Dex Patterson, whose main focus at this point is going to be on the Jack Sears. Completely get that. I think he has to be aiming for an outright podium in this car as well. I really do.
Yeah.
It might be he requires a reverse grid for this, but actually the pace is there. And I think at somewhere like Silverstone, where I think that car is going to be electric, at somewhere like Silverstone, I think they really need to be
all petrol.
Very good. They are 1-1. I think they really need to be targeting that at this stage as a potential for trying to get the drivers or the other drivers onto the podium and try and get a couple more wins.
Off Sam Osborne though.
Yes.
Your final one?
I'm not going to talk about Plato Racing. The temptation would be there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on the other side of the Toyota garage. Obviously, I spoke about Gordon Shedden, to a lesser extent, Aaron Taylor-Smith. It's a really weird one. This is the side that's got the manufacturer backing. This is the side that you'd expect to be leading the flag, bearing the flag and leading the charge. And they've been a bit meh. Now, I know people are going to say, well, hang on, Russell, stop a minute there.
Cook is the top Toyota in the championship.
Cook is the top performing in the championship.
Yep.
He's only had one podium, by the way, and he is 8 points clear of Gordon Shedden. Very quick maths there. Darts is helping.
It's helping. Can't hit a double though.
No, but I don't need to in this, to be fair. But Cook's also had 2 retirements. He's had. I think he's outperforming the car.
I feel like he's struggled for consistency. Now
I was going to say that. And I look at his results, because I was about to say the same thing. I look at results and go, has he been finishing this high?
Yeah, well, he kind of does stuff on the radar. That's why we always go into a season. If Cook's there, we go, he finishes 6th in the championship. What do his results say?
He's currently 8th, although, as I say, with the Collards situation, you'd expect him. But like you, I was going to say, he's been inconsistent. But actually, I might as well read them out as we're here. Retirement, 10th, 7th, 5th, 4th, 12th, 15th, 2nd, 15th, 5th.
About 8th. But this is where he is in the championship. Yeah,
it's just surprising. But then, Cook's gone a little bit under the radar, and I still think he's outperforming the car. Then we go down to his teammate,
Buxton, on the other hand.
Buxton, who has not scored a single point in the touring cars yet. The only driver not to have done so at this halfway-ish mark.
Last season, who I thought, maybe he's got a little bit about him, a little bit of promise, a little bit of speed underlying, produced some fairly good performances considering the situation that he was in when he came into the team. This was a chance and an opportunity this season for him to go, and get some points on the board and then build on that from there. And as you said already, no points as of yet, and really lackluster, poor performances with not much speed either.
No, so obviously Buxton hasn't driven any of these circuits because he came in at partly through the season last year. So that's part of it potentially. But so I was going to try and compare where he was this year to last year, but I can't because that's impossible. But what I would say is that 18th, retired, 16th, 18th, retired, 20th, 18th, 19th, 18th, 16th. So he's only been close to points twice, really, 2 16ths, 3 retirements. The car just it looks so slow in his hands. And even where, I've not got the finishes ahead of me, but touring cars is a sport where you normally get at least one non-finisher race, normally. And just still not really be anywhere close to the points, particularly when Cook is doing what he's doing. And look, I will say again, I think Cook is massively overperforming what the car is actually capable of. What I'm worried about is that, look, at some point Toyota are going to get bored of this because they struggled last year. Right towards the end of the season, you thought, they've cracked it. They've really worked out what they're doing now.
They've put the right engine in.
Take the hamster out, put an engine in. Who knew that's how it works? But actually, and then towards the end of last season, a switch was flicked, and actually they started to get really good results. You thought, maybe there'll be one to watch next season. Not necessarily win a championship, but there'll be one to watch. And actually, in fairness, the laser tool side of things have done pretty well. Cook's doing what he's doing, but then it's not a great look for a manufacturer to be bottom-ending the championship. It's just not. You don't expect a manufacturer-backed team to be bottom-ending the Premier Tin Top Racing Series. You just don't.
An alternative way to look at it is, yes, Buxton is a young talent coming into the sport, and he will take some time to adapt. Now, effectively, he's had a whole season now. He's had the first half of this one, back end of last season, and it doesn't feel like he's been able to kick on at any point.
Yeah, but controversially, I don't think he's done a lot wrong.
No,
I don't think he's not. It's not like he's not finishing races because he's pushing too hard and ending up in the gravel. He's not doing.
But would Toyota be better off putting him for testing across the season, being able to get?
You see, I'm wincing because we spent a great.
I'm bringing in a driver that you're going to get more consistent results with.
I'm wincing because on our question and answer session, we lambasted the series for not bringing through young drivers. No.
But how long do you give a young driver?
No, well, but I don't think I think there is a limit to how long you give a young driver. I agree with you on that. However, I think you also have to look at, is that young driver making mistakes? Is he doing things wrong? Is he doing a Nikita Mazepin here and spinning out every week and potentially hasn't got the talent or the ability to race at this level? I don't think that's the case of Max Buxton. I think he's just been dealt a car that really doesn't suit him, and it is just slow. I don't think it's him that's making mistakes. I don't think he's too timid. I don't think because we saw last year that he's capable. So I do put it down to the car. I really do. I agree with you.
But then again, Cook sits in 8th in the championship ahead of the other two Toyotas.
But Cook does this, as you say, and Cook is very experienced.
So the speed must be in the car.
Well, it's in one of the cars. Doesn't mean it's in both the cars. And that's another question as well, is that are they running two completely different setups to try and find the ultimate setup and say, right, you're going that way, you're going that way, and we'll hopefully the winning formula is somewhere in the middle. At the minute, it's clearly not in the middle. But yeah, look, I agree with you to a point that there does come a point, particularly manufacturer back team, where you go, look, this is not good for the brand. Yep. However, I think what's worse for the brand is sacking off a young driver, when I think that most fans who watch the racing and etc. look at that and don't think, can see that this is not a driver that's constantly in the gravel. It's not a driver that's constantly in the barrier. It's not a driver that's constantly crashing over cars. It's a driver that just isn't quite there yet.
Dare I say, and this might be controversial, let us know down in the comments, brands don't care about that. Brands want to be seen. And if brands need to be seen, then they need to be up the front and they need to be competing, not having a driver stuck at the back of the grid.
I think it depends on the brand.
Okay.
I think that someone like Red Bull, you're right, don't care. Red Bull's all about... I think that Red Bull... And not just in F1, I think across in the football, whatever it is, Red Bull is about winning. Yeah. And if you're not winning, you're sacked, whether that be Jesse March, Julian Nagelsmann, or Nick de Vries. If you're not doing well, you're out the door. Don't care. I do think there's other brands that care about this more. I think a brand like Mercedes care about this more. I think a brand, again, I'm thinking about F1 terms. I think a team like McLaren care about this more, about brand and about how they're perceived. I actually think McLaren care too much about how they're perceived. As we saw last year, the Papaya rules, and everyone's good friends, and everyone's a mate here. And I actually think they care too much. But yeah, I agree with you. Some brands won't matter for. I think other brands will care. And I don't know whether Toyota is a brand that's going to care about this particularly or not. From a looking after young driver point of view and trying to keep young drivers coming through the sport, I don't want to see Buxton binned. No. But I am very disappointed in how his racing has gone. Again, albeit I caveat it by saying I don't think Buxton is the problem. I think the car is the problem. And I know you can make the argument about Cook. We'll just go around in circles. But yeah. Well, that's actually, we both also went to Media Day, and neither of us were particularly impressed with Toyota there either. I think we can... I'm not saying that if you go trackside, you have a different... Well, no, I'm going to say, if you go trackside, you have a different perspective how these cars are performing, how they're sounding, how they're looking in reals, right? Yeah. I don't think that car looks any good from the trackside. Even Cook's car, I don't think looks as good as some of the other cars on the grid. I just don't.
Let us know your thoughts and highlights from the season so far. Obviously, we haven't taken into account every single driver on the grid because we've only got 45 minutes or whatever it is. And plenty of other teams and drivers have had fairly okay, mediocre seasons in which they may want to have been achieving more. They are possibly not achieving as much as they want to. But by the end of the season, we'll try and catch you up with all the drivers and the teams that are there and see how they do.
Yep, let us know who's been your highlight of the season so far, who's been your low light of the season so far. And we'll finish off by just taking you through the championship standings. So as you may be aware, Sutton leads the way in the overall championship, 220 points to Tom Ingram on 172, Camish back on 160, Rainford 137, Collard in 5th on 124, De Leon 6th, 113, Doble 7, 110, Josh Cook sits in 8th with 105, Shedden in 9th with 97, and Aidan Moffat rounds out the top 10 with 81.
Yeah, the Manufacturers/Constructors Championship is as follows. So Ford Alliance Racing have a decent lead in that for 387 to Accelerate on 269, followed back by Mercedes on 237, and then Toyota, as we've just spoken about, down on 216.
In the teams, Napa lead the way there as well. Just proved my theory that they might not be any good. With 334, which I believe is a 112 point gap to WSR on 228. Yes, WSR are ahead of Team Virtue, who sit in third on 216. LKQ Eurocar Parts with Powermax Racing 186, and rounding out the top 5, Laser Tools Racing on 186. Yes, they are with 168. Sorry. Yes, they are well ahead of the Speedworks Corolla Racing side of things.
Yep. And then possibly the most interesting championship, the Independent Drivers Championship. Mikey Doble leads the way on 166 from Darryl De Leon on 161. A further 2 points back from that is Charles Rainford, despite him being above him in the actual championship. Aidan Moffat is then back on 148, 1 point ahead of Gordon Shedden on 147, who is 5 points ahead of Smiley on 142. And then we have a bit of a gap because we had a poor weekend from Aaron Taylor-Smith, didn't we, earlier this season, which puts him back on 127, Dexter Patterson on 120, and then James Dorlin all the way back on 113.
Then in the independent teams, LKQ Eurocar Parts with Powermax Racing, so that's the Doble and Moffat side of things, lead the way on 200, 1 point clear of WSR on 199. Laser Tools Racing with NB Motorsport on 184, Restart Racing on 170, and then Dexter Patterson all on his own, competing for Steel Seal with Powermax Racing 137.
Yeah, and finally the Jack Sears Trophy. Dexter Patterson leads the way on 195 points. He's taken 6 wins overall this season. From James Dorlin on 188, he only has 3 wins. From Sam Osborne, 3rd on 166. Nick Hamilton, 4th on 132. From Lewis Selby on 129, and then Max Buxton on 106.
So that pretty much sums up June / a mid-season-ish kind of review analysis thing, whatever its pod has been. If you're still looking for touring car content and haven't listened to our Q&A session, please go and check that out. We answer your questions in a workshop with a very beautiful car. So
although it was warm.
It was warm, yeah, it was warm, but we made the most of it.
We'll bring you another Q&A session before we get back to the racing at Thruxton later this month. We're recording this at the start of July. But until then, stay safe. Enjoy the weather, although it keeps changing, and we'll be back once again.
It's coming home.